Welcome to Lead with Hope with Brandy Kelly, the podcast where we explore the power of hope, leadership, and resilience in today's world. Each week, we'll bring you stories, insights, and actionable advice from leaders, innovators, and changemakers. So let's dive in and discover how you can lead with hope.
Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us this morning on the Lead with Hope podcast. This morning, I have a special guest. I have Raul Gastón, and he is the principal of Gompers Junior High School in Joliet, Illinois. He's been a principal for over 2 decades, and he was the first Latino president of the Illinois Principals Association in 2023. Now, it was during that time that he began sharing his journey from poverty to being a middle school principal. And I'm so excited to hear more about how Raul leads with hope this morning. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Well, we're going to dive in with our first question, Raul. And what I want to hear from you, I want you to just share your story with us. Tell us who you are. Why did you become an educator?
Why did I become an educator? Well, that goes way back to high school. So back in the 80s. That seems like so long ago. And not so long ago, but yet so long ago at the same time, right? But I was a kid in Chicago, moved from Puerto Rico when I was in 8th grade, entering 8th grade, knew very little English, very limited amount of English that I had. And basically, as I tell people, I knew how to say I like a number one supersized with a Coke. That was the extent of my language skills, but it was survival. And so it worked. But then from there, I continued learning English and met several key educators in my high school years, and namely Mr. Clementi, Mr. Hoover, Mr. Henry. There were a couple of educators that just really kind of took me under their wing, and I wanted to be just like them. I wanted to be an educator. That's what got me started in that process of thinking I wanted to be a teacher. And so lo and behold, eventually I went on the extended program. I graduated high school in 86, but college in 96, a 10-year extended program of starting school, dropping out, doing other jobs, and then going back in because I really wanted to be a teacher. I just didn't know how to do that. And so it took me a little while to get there, but I finally got there and became a teacher at Urbana Middle School. I was a Spanish teacher for 9 years at Urbana, coached volleyball, all kinds of fun stuff there. And then decided to move closer to family and ended up in Elmhurst for York High School, where I became a Spanish teacher, then department chair. My first stint at administration, being a department chair, and then from there became assistant principal at Jefferson Middle School in Villa Park, and I became the principal there after that for 12 years. And this is my first year at Gompers, coming over to start a new adventure. They're building a new building, and that just seemed too interesting to me to pass up, and jumped in at Gompers to lead the charge there. And that's where life has brought me professionally anyways. I'm a dad, have 2 daughters, adult daughters, one soon to become 21. She's 20 right now, 20 and 22 are my 2 daughters. And one's married, the other one's at NIU, working on her psychology degree. And my wife and I have been married 35 years. So that's me in a nutshell, in a quick span.
That is amazing. And, there's so much there that we could talk about. I mean, from your family to your career to the struggles and the obstacles that you faced in getting into the field of education. But let's start with those relationships. I think leading with hope, a lot of that is about the relationships and the people that pour into you and the people that we pour into as leaders then as we're, doing our best to try to give back. Is there any specific teacher that stands out to you in your mind? Any specific person that you maybe still stay in touch with, or really you feel like they had a major part in your story?
Absolutely. Like going back to high school, I would definitely say Mr. Clementi. The three gentlemen I mentioned earlier, all three of them in their own ways, but Mr. Clemente became that father figure. I still write him every Christmas. He sends me a card every Christmas. We kind of still stay in touch. And this many years later, he came when I got married. So yeah, he's been that guy that just wanted to be more than just a teacher. He wanted to be that person that wanted to connect with kids, and being from a low income, high dropout rate, violence in the community. He really gravitated towards helping kids, and he latched onto me, and I latched onto him, and we just became like, he was my first boss. He was the director for driver's ed, and so he hired me as a student teacher at a whopping $3.35 an hour. So yeah, big money back then, right, in the '80s, but it gave me something to start, building, that I wanted to invest, time with him, but also in the work that we were doing, and I wanted to become like him in many ways. And so that was my first, person that really invested in me in that capacity. But then along the way, there were people everywhere you turned, and I wanted to be that for others as well. But everywhere you turned, there were people that were investing in me. From my first, I got my first job as assistant principal. Dr. Katzen, he took me on as his assistant principal, and he just coached me day in and day out, to the point where I was able to take over when he became superintendent in Franklin Park. He left to be superintendent. He's like, you got to step in. It's only been 2 years, but you got to step in and be principal. And I stepped in and kind of took over for him. After that, we'll still chat. Last time we chatted was on this winter break. We were still connecting and talking about, all kinds of different topics and education. We still connect here and there, but it's another person that just kind of said, no, this is what you need to do. This is how you need to do it. And then get into that, what I would call that academic dialogue, so that I can learn from him, but he can learn from me, and we bounce ideas off each other. It's great. So people everywhere along the way have invested in me. So I try to do the same. I try to invest in others. I've had several assistant principals that have become principals, several teachers that have become assistant principals. I have right now, even though I'm no longer at Jefferson, I have two people that were working on their, what we used to call Type 75, right? The principal license. They were still working on it. So I'm still working with them, to help them finish it out, even though I'm not there anymore, because I want to invest in them. It's what we do. If we're not nurturing the next crop of administrators, who's going to take over? So that's on us to continue to lead in that way, to help the next level of administrators come through and get ready to take on that position. So as much as people have invested in me, I try to do the same.
Yeah, I think that's so important. And it, like I said before, it starts with those relationships, and it's from, as we can see with your story, from high school all the way to current day. And, as I've been reflecting a lot on the relationships of my career, as I've been writing my book, Lead with Hope, it is all about building that capacity. And right now, I think in education, we need hope more than ever. But hope is more than just wishful thinking. Hope without action doesn't mean a whole lot. So as you are doing this, as you are working to build capacity, what actions or habits do you engage in to make that really work for you and for those that you serve?
I think you kind of hit it right on the head when you said it takes action. And
Mhm.
so I like to work in a method that action looks like empowerment. And so
Mhm.
how do we empower our staff? How do we empower individuals to take that action? Because we can stifle a lot of that action just by not allowing people to do things. And so everything from working with my teachers to working with my administrative team on how do we give people that capacity to be able to make those decisions, everything from working through, a problem, giving input on how we are going to make some changes with discipline, with policies, all kinds of things. How do we empower them? Because we can stifle that. We can stifle that action, and it could be where, well, I don't get to do things here. I have to just teach. And we know as an organization, it's a living organism. And if we don't give it the opportunity to breathe and exist and expand, we're gonna stifle it. And so I want to make sure that that's how I lead with hope, is by empowering people, making sure that they have a say. We might not do what you want us to do necessarily, but you have a voice, and we can make sure that it's included.
Yeah. It's that growth mindset. You're talking about growth mindset right there. And, as a leader, the responsibility lies on your shoulders. And sometimes that's a heavy responsibility. So how do you balance that? How do you balance that need to control and make everything work the way that you envision it to work, and giving those people the power to fail forward, to make mistakes, to learn, to grow? Because I do think that's a balancing act. What would you say about
It's the bowling alley. You got to have the bumper lanes, right? You got to put the bumpers down. Here are the parameters. Here are the things, the guidelines, the things that we need to work within, and that includes me. That's not just me overshadowing everything, but we have to have the guidelines of what's the space we can work within. But within that space, how do we make this work for you? How do we make this work for you as an educator, as a teacher, as a sixth grade science teacher, or so forth down the line, right? And so that's where the balance is. That's where we can get into how we best navigate together, because it can't be everything the way I want it to be, and it can't be everything the way others want it to be. It has to be a collaboration, and that's that leadership part, where we can then kind of nudge things in a certain direction, because we can see other things. I can see things from the 10,000 foot level. They're seeing things at 100-foot level. And so I might be able to say, yeah, seeing what's coming down the line, we do need to go a little bit in this direction, which is going to get us a little bit closer to where we want to go. And so we can definitely do those things. Of course, there are a lot of things I don't see, because, district office sees things at 100-foot level, so they can guide and give me direction, and I can then massage that and bring it in. So being able to do it that way helps a lot, giving people that flexibility.
Yeah. So building capacity, having that collaboration. And I think all of that then goes towards creating a culture that we can be proud of, a culture where people can thrive. And so whenever I think about your story, Raul, going back to those high school years and thinking about some of the adversity that you have overcome to get to the point where you're leading with hope in your school, in your organization, how did you maintain that optimistic outlook, that positive mindset?
I think I've always had it in many ways. I think growing up, I was born in Puerto Rico, but we lived in New York for a little bit, then went back to Puerto Rico, then came to Chicago, and my parents ended up in Florida, and I stayed in Chicago. So did a brother. So we had a lot of movement. We weren't a military family or anything like that, but I sure felt like one, because we moved a lot. I think I counted one year how many schools I went to, and I think from K through 12, I think I was in 9 different schools or 10 different schools. And so we moved a lot, and that just kind of, you went with the flow. You couldn't get too attached to anything. You couldn't get to, that back in the day, when before social media, you move, you lost all your friends, so I didn't establish too many friends. I try to keep in touch with a few. When I got to high school, I have a few lifelong friends now that I've been able to maintain. But I think that also created that resiliency of, we got to go with the flow. We can't take anything too personally, and we just got to continue moving forward. The better days ahead, kind of mentality, because otherwise you over fixate on something, and it becomes poisonous. It becomes something that is not positive in your life. So I never really held on to much of anything other than my wife and kids and family. That's what matters, right? So we hold on to those things that are important, and the rest, we're going to get through this, and we're going to make it better, so that everything works for everyone.
Yeah, and I think, talking about family, talking about that, it makes me think about my values. My values are faith, family, and then community.
Mhm.
And for me, that community is education, my educational community, um, for the most part. But, thinking about that, some people are wired that way. They're wired with a very optimistic outlook, and you were blessed to have that optimistic outlook. Think about the kids that you have maybe in your school that maybe aren't wired so much that way. How do you or your teachers encourage them to be a little bit more optimistic? Because we know now that we can rewire the brain. There are things that we can do, habits we can um, help students and teachers employ that improves that optimistic outlook. So I'm just wondering, what are some strategies that you might share?
We have all kinds of things that we do on a regular basis. Anything from, honor roll to celebrations to recognition of students for different things. But one thing that I think really helps kids is when they see things on a regular basis.
Mhm.
Even in our morning announcements, we give a quote of the day. A quick item that just kind of lets them know it's okay to fail. I forgot what the one was the other day, but it said something along those lines that if you're not failing, you're
Mhm.
not doing anything. Then it's okay to fail. You need to fail to learn something and actually grow and learn. And so it's it's those kind of things that they need to hear consistently over and over again, and coming from different people, from the principal to the teacher to the anybody in the school system, being able to let them know that we're here to support them, but we're going to continue growing, and they need to hear it a lot because what is that they say you need to hear seven times
Yeah.
seven,
Mhm.
7 times 10, whatever the phrase is, that you need to hear it a lot more than the negatives, and we hear the negatives a lot everywhere, and
Yeah.
so we need to continue saying those things and supporting kids along the way as best we can.
Absolutely. And whatever you focus on, that's what's going to grow. It's that law of attraction, right? And so I couldn't agree with that more. And I love quotes. I love pouring in, inspiration, positive quotes, all of that with our students, with our staff. And I think it's a misnomer in education that, okay, we expect that our kids are going to fail, but it's okay for the adults in our organization to fail too, as long as they're employing that growth mindset and they're failing forward.
Yep.
We're all becoming. It's a process, not an event. And so I love what you're saying about that. And I think just continuing to share that message that it's okay to fail, whether you're 12 or you're 24 or you're 44 or even 54. It is okay, and that is how we grow. And that's what this journey is about. That's how you lead with hope, is by continuing to grow and to evolve. So your purpose in life and your educational career is truly inspirational. I'm just wondering though, as you are leading your middle school, how do you live out your purpose with passion?
It's in how things are structured. My staff, they're getting to know me. I've been at Gompers Junior High for 6 months now, so half a year in, yay! But I come with experience, 12 years of experience as a principal. So there are some things that I've done in the past that I know have worked well, but different conditions, different contexts,
Mhm.
changes everything, right? And coming from a school of 400 students to 750, a staff of 40 compared to 80 changes a lot of things, right? And so uh, definitely they figured out that I'm a systems kind of person. I like having systems in place, setting up how we get organized. I'm a weird misnomer. Most Puerto Ricans are not known for their organizational skills. We're
Mhm.
not. We're just not very organized people, and I can't live that way. I am hyper organized in many ways. Spreadsheets are my thing, and
Mhm.
so I like putting things in a specific order so that it works for people, not so that people fit into the system, but so that the system can work for people.
Right.
And so that's where I think I find my purpose. I was up this morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. I got up and grabbed my cup of coffee and start working on our budget. so that I want to create a budget that acknowledges all the different things that we do, and share that with my staff on Monday when we come back in, things that they need to consider for the budget and get their input on it as well. And so it's another system, so how does that work for staff so they have voice and choice on those things? So that's where my passion is. It's creating the conditions so that people can do their best. And if I can accomplish that, then I know that will happen. And the kids will benefit from that, obviously.
Oh, absolutely. And systems, I love that you brought that up, because a lot of principals, I think, especially early career principals, they struggle with that. They struggle with knowing what systems help build collective teacher efficacy in our schools. And so I hate to put you on the spot, Raul, because this was not in the questions that I shared with you. But when I was at St. Louis University doing my dissertation, this was a topic of study for me. And I wondered what systems principals put in place to establish and maintain collective teacher efficacy. So for you, what does that look like?
It's everything. It's everything we do, everything from discipline to classroom management to, what are we doing for a curriculum, across the board, everything. You like quotes. You mentioned you like quotes, and there's one that caught my attention when I went to a conference, and I held on to it, because it's what when I read it, I'm like, this is it. This is what I'm doing. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the levels of your systems.
Yes.
And I have to use that. I have to use that every time I talk to people, I bring back that quote, because that's what it's about. Once you create those systems in every aspect, people will rise to that. Otherwise, your culture dies. I do believe that in many ways. This is my first year here at Gompers Junior High, and because of the systems that we're putting in place, the culture is improving, because now there isn't this mystery or this secret organizational thing happening that I don't know anything about, and I have no input, no say, no understanding of it. So therefore, it must be against me, kind of mentality. You chip away at that. Will you ever eliminate it? Probably not, but you can definitely chip away at it where it becomes such a afterthought that it's really, no, we have systems in place for that. We have things in place. And then the culture thrives because there's not that mystery anymore. And so I think that's where that kind of guides me in that direction.
Oh, 1000% agree with you. And that's a James Clear quote and one of my favorites. So
Yeah, love it.
it is amazing. And it is so, so, so true. And in my school district, and I led a middle school. I'm a middle school person too. Never thought I would be when I entered education, but I love middle schoolers. They are
It's
pretty
the
amazing.
best. It's the best.
I love them. But I think about what you're saying about systems there and the importance of establishing highly effective systems. And it makes me think about kind of the financial world. They talk about the return on investment and how, the compounding interest. Consistency compounds and increases our return on investment, if you will, to use that kind of language. And systems, processes, protocols, that just helps clear up a very complex operating system. Schools are complex. We have so many human beings in a school district. By its very nature, it is extremely complex. And so the more clarity you can bring and the more consistency you can bring, and you're absolutely right, you can do that with systems. And I love that you brought that up this morning. I love systems work, and I think it is incredibly important as we are improving our culture, growing our people, building capacity, and doing the best we can to improve outcomes for our students. So when you think about that, Raul, that kind of leads me into my next question with excellence. That's how we achieve excellence for our students and for our staff. So for you, how would you define excellence?
I think excellence is always striving to be better than you were yesterday. That's
Mhm.
excellence. It's not a magic target or a standard or a grade level or a designation from the state or anybody else. It's, can you continue to improve and just be 1% better than yesterday? If you can be 1% better every day, just a little bit better, I'll take 0.5%. If you can be just a little bit better every day, that's excellence, because you are improving. And over time, is like you said, compounded interest, it gets better. So if you can just give me a little bit more every day, we're all going to get better in the long run. So to me, that's excellence. It's not, you don't need to compare yourself to anyone else. You don't need to be better than the teacher that's across the hall. You don't need to be better than that other school across town. You just need to be better than you were yesterday. That's all.
Yeah. I love that.
Simple.
Yeah, it is. It's very simple. And sometimes we complicate things. We, the person looking at ourselves in the mirror, complicate things to the point that really gets in our way for achieving that excellence. And then that really affects the outcomes that we are producing in our organizations, our school districts, for our students. But, I think excellence is exactly what you said. It's just getting better every single day. And leading with hope is, finding those habits that serve you and your school and your people. Having that optimistic outlook, that positive mindset, I think that just gives you the fuel to keep doing the hard work. Having purpose, passion, and persevering. I mean, you are the epitome of perseverance. You have overcome so much in your life. And then just modeling that excellence for our students and our staff. That's how we build capacity in our organizations. And we need it now more than ever. So
Yes.
as we lead with hope, I hope people will look to you as a model, Raul. And I hope that I hope that they will strive for that excellence each and every day. And as we're wrapping up today, can you leave us with maybe a story or a quote or some words of wisdom that can help people lead with hope today?
I would say that take a look as leaders. Where can we start with one thing? Because if you look at model change theory, which we've all seen in different formats, change can be difficult. And so where can you lead changing something in your building that you can start with one thing, especially if you're struggling with being able to let go of something or holding on to something? What's one thing you can change that you can bring into your building and have that conversation and bounce it off of others? I'm blessed. I'm incredibly blessed that I have 3 academic advisors, an assistant principal, and myself. We have a nice administrative team of 5, which is great because I bounce ideas off of them all the time just to see, here's what I'm thinking. Here's what I'm thinking that we might want to change. What do you think? And they'll bring me back to earth and tell me that's too much. Let's try this instead. And so we fine tune it to the point that we can change something. So bounce it off of people, get their input, get their ideas, and start with something small. It could be something as simple as, for one thing that I changed at the beginning of the year this year, was our schedule changes. We had sometimes schedule changes that needed to happen. For some reason, they didn't happen. Some got approved, some didn't. It was just like this weird, not existing system, basically. When do we do a schedule change? So I brought something that I had used before, which was a very simple schedule change form. Here's the form. Here are the people that need to sign off on it: the team leader, the counselor, the social worker. It also has on there who's communicating the change to the student and who's communicating the change to the parent. And then finally, it has the counselor. I'm sorry, not the counselor, our academic advisor, to do the actual schedule change in the system. And guess who's the last signature? Me. I'm the last signature on the rubber stamp at the end. It's gone through all these people, including the team. So everybody knows that the schedule change is coming. It's no surprise. It isn't like a kid just showed up in your class the next day. I'm like, I didn't know this. So something as simple as that has created where now everybody owns that schedule change. So there's input from the team. No, this class is not a great class to put that student in. Maybe this class, I'd rather they be in my third hour instead of my fifth hour. It's already a pretty big class. So all that conversation has happened. Not a single complaint about our schedule changes have happened this year since we started. And that's because people have input and have a say and can know it's coming. It's not this mystery thing happening to them. So sometimes a simple thing like that, a little form, it's a one pager, and we just take that form and stick it in the student's file in case we need to look in the future. Why did we do that schedule change? Oh, it's because scores had changed or whatever, parent requests, lots of things can come through. So sometimes as simple as that, something small like that can give you great returns. So start somewhere, pick something that's been bothering you or has been a difficulty and see what you can do differently.
Yeah. And there's two things that you said there that I just want to kind of revisit. One, you created a system in that schedule change process. You have a very clearly laid out system. And you said at the beginning of that story that essentially we're better together because you have 5 people that you're working with, that team of 5, and you guys worked on that together to create a system that provides clarity, communication, consistency, structure, everything that we really want in a system. And so we are definitely better together. And Raul, I think we can learn a lot from you. And I do agree with you wholeheartedly that we are better together. So as we are wrapping up this episode of Lead with Hope, if people want to reach out to you, would you be open to having conversations and sharing your expertise? And if so, how can they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Definitely, you can reach me at Gompers Junior High School. Phone number is, you can just look it up online and get the phone numbers and everything else. But my email is rgaston@joliet86.org. You can definitely reach me there as well. So look me up, send me an email. Be happy to pitch in anywhere I can.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And one last thing I do want to share. Was it in 2023 when the Illinois Principals Association did the conference? The theme was?
Yeah, that was actually in 22 because my
22.
presidency was 22 to 23, and the leadership conference is in October each year. So that was October of 22nd, and it was Leaders of Hope was our theme for that conference.
Yeah, I love that. And it fits so well into what we're doing here with the Lead with Hope podcast. So again, Raul, thank you for coming on today. I hope you have a blessed rest of the day. And I so appreciate you sharing your story.
Thank you for having me. It was an honor. Thank you.
This podcast is a proud member of the Teach Better Podcast Network. Better today, better tomorrow, and the podcast to get you there. Explore more podcasts at teachbetter.com/podcasts, and we'll see you at the next episode.